Rick Holden, welcome to Evening Extra.
Thank you.
And the book, Football, it's a minging life. You can't be serious, can you? It's all glamour, isn't it, for you guys?
Well, that's the impression the general public get, but perhaps at Premier League level it's glamorous, but for the most part it's not a glamorous life. You know, there's a lot of travel and endless monotonous training, but it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek as well, to be honest, because that's the most overplayed word in football anyway, is minging.
Another phrase that's used quite a lot in football is journeyman, and you did have one or two clubs, didn't you? Just run us through your sort of career.
Yeah, Burnley, Halifax, Watford, Oldham, Man City and Blackpool. Yeah, I got around a bit, but no choice in it sometimes. You know, you're told you're off, and that's what happened to me at Halifax. 1 minute I was in 4th Division, next minute I'm whisked to 1st Division at Watford. I had no real say in it, to be honest.
And an academic background as well, in terms of your earlier life. You might not have necessarily been shepherding yourself into football. Did you have your eyes on something else then before?
There's a classic, went to a boys' grammar school, wanted to leave and play football, but my dad insisted I went and did my A-levels, and then thought I'd missed the boat in football, to be honest. Ended up at Carnegie College at Leeds Polytechnic doing a degree in sports science, and then got playing for the college team, and we played friendlies against pro teams midweek, and I got picked up by Burnley. But it is proof you don't need to actually have made it by 14 at a club. You can go and do... My first professional game was when I was 21.
Was there anybody that was like a father figure during those early years that you look back on now and think, oh, I'm glad they pointed me in the right direction, sort of thing? Because occasionally you hear these stories about people going a bit off the rails, don't you, sir?
Well, yeah, I don't think it was off the rails so much, but a chap called Billy Eyre, who's sadly passed away now, died young with cancer, but he was a magnificent coach and mentor at Halifax Town. I gained something from every coach and manager I was with. Joe Royle, obviously, was a very big influence on my career and allowed me to blossom, really, at Oldham.
He was a good man-manager, wasn't he? He had the psychology right.
Yeah, and that's it, you know, at Oldham it definitely was an asylum when I turned up there, and he got the best out of us, definitely. We had to go and do one of those ridiculous songs when we got to the cup final, League Cup final, and it was on a Thursday. We went for a drink afterwards, which is what you did in those days, and the 48-hour rule was bent. We stayed on for a bit longer than we should have. He found out because we'd all signed the visitors' book in the Red Lion, and like fools. And so I remember on the Saturday in the FA Cup, second replay against Everton, he got hold of me there's a picture in the book. He's got hold of my chin and he said, "You'd better win because I know what you were doing on Thursday night." So thankfully we did.
And presumably he'd been through all that himself as a player, hadn't he? So he knew the trick. It must be very hard to pull a flanker on them.
They know you've been out. They know what you're doing. I think they just make amends when they're training, you know. And I mean, we, for the most part, were very professional, but we did have our moments, and he would certainly find out. We did actually take to going into the wilds of Yorkshire when we went out, so hopefully he couldn't find out, but he even found us then in one pub. But I think he just came in for a meal with his wife, and his joy hit the deck when he saw about 15 of his squad there in Ripondon in Halifax.
And so this is very much a book which looks at football at the grass level, and when you were playing for the likes of Halifax Town, there must have been some really ropey old grounds that you had to go off to, quite inhospitable.
Yeah, but I actually quite like that. I like the old style, you know, the old Doncaster Rovers pitch and surroundings. Yeah, I liked it. I think it's all got a bit homogenised now, and all the stadiums are very much the same, you know, there's sort of bowls with concrete and plastic seats, whereas they all had character, and you could tell from the floodlights and the stands, the lech, hoardings and things like that on the top of the stand, proper design. You could tell where you were. It was even the same when we got to, you know, I was playing at Main Road. That was a unique ground, and
yes,
you know, I'm not a big fan of the Eastlands compared to Main Road, to be honest.
Perhaps the modern grounds do lack a little bit of atmosphere, and the one thing you do get at the smaller grounds is that you can actually hear what the crowd's saying sometimes. And a bit of banter occasionally, I suppose. If you're near the wing, you could perhaps give it back occasionally. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, on the wing, I used to get a lot of flack from certain fans, you know, away. I can remember being escorted out of the ground by the police at Wickham because I was winding up the fans, but... yeah, smaller grounds, you do tend to hear more stuff going on. Play at Old Trafford and you couldn't hear yourself think, you know.
So just going back to your time at Oldham, we referred there to the cup runs. They were halcyon days, weren't they, for Oldham Athletic? What was it like being part of that side?
Well, it was a roller coaster. It was a great side, and we could match anyone and beat them. And the cup runs sort of gave us the confidence to get promoted the following year and live in the big time with all the top clubs, So that's what cup runs should do, give you confidence if you do well in them. I was surprised when I went back to Oldham a couple of 3 weeks ago how much affection all the fans had for that era still, and it took me by surprise a little bit, to be honest.
Does it disappoint you how the cup competitions have lost some of their allure these days? I mean, what do you blame? Is it television that's done it, or what? It doesn't quite seem the same, does it?
It doesn't. I tend to blame things like the Champions League from being a knockout cup competition that it was to a league. Then managers tend to sort of give the Carling Cup, League Cup, a bit of a less attention than they should, and also the money in staying in the Premier League is so vital that they'd rather stay in the Premier League and sacrifice the Carling Cup. So they won't put the strongest side out because they want to keep the players back for a league game. So I think the combination of those two has damaged the cup.
The one thing it did give you, though, was a sort of profile which perhaps you didn't have otherwise. You had a stage, you had live terrestrial television football, and are you a little bit disappointed perhaps that you weren't picked up and perhaps have an international career out of it?
Not just me. Several players at Oldham should have played for England. Neil Redfern, Andy Ritchie, Ian Marshall.
It's this cloth cap and whippet image of Lancashire, isn't it? It doesn't seem to play well with the Mandarins in London, is it? There are these fashionable and unfashionable clubs.
Even Palace and places like that would produce England footballers more than Oldham. We were just unfashionable, and I have often said, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but if you want to play for England, play for Spurs at least,
And we'll have more from Rick Holden after the news at 8, talking about his book, Football, It's a Minging Life.